Hi everyone, Adarsh here. So today we're gonna see how we can create a Spring MVC application by using annotation, and we can secure that application by using Spring Security, where we are using Hibernate as a ORM tool to fetch the data from the database. So all configurations like Hibernate configuration, data source configuration, Spring MVC configuration and Spring Security configuration will be done by using annotations bean inside the configuration classes. So we don't have XML based configuration. This application is basic purely on annotations. So let's jump into the code and see how it looks like. So we have a pom.xml where we have all dependencies and configurations. So group ID, artifact ID, versions. Then we have a packaging for a WAR file. Then name of the application, URL, organizational tag, license tag, developer tag, repositories. We have bunch of property where we have a project name, source code, encoding, JDK version, Spring MVC, Spring version, Spring Security version, JSTL version, Servlet version, as well as a Hibernate version. We have the Hibernate. We are using 4.1.0 final release. And inside the dependencies tag we have a Servlet API dependency, we have a Spring Core dependency, Spring Web dependency, Spring Web MVC dependency, and followed by Spring Security dependencies here. So starting from Spring Security Web, Spring Security Config, and Spring Security Taglib, and then followed by JSTL dependency, Log4j dependency. Then we have a Spring ORM as well as transaction dependency, Spring transaction dependency. And we have a C3P0 dependency here, followed by Hibernate Core, Hibernate C3P0, and Hibernate's EH cache dependency. And then we have a MySQL connector dependency and Commons TPCP dependency here. Then inside the build tag we have a WAR file configuration, basically for the WAR file name, resources configuration. Inside the plugin we have a standard Maven compiler plugin as well as embedded JT container plugin, so that need not to deploy this application externally in any web container. We will get a ready-made inline container for this application. So we have 3 folder like Java, resources, and web app. So inside Java we have a configurations, so configuration controller, entity manager, repository, security. Inside resources we have properties, SQL file, log4j XML, and then web INF we have static resources, web INF we have pages basically, and web.xml. So let's go into one by one. So in the configuration we have persistence configuration, security configuration, and web configuration. So let's get into the persistence configuration basic first. So inside the persistence configuration we have a class annotated with the @ configuration, and we have enabled the transaction management. We are importing a data source property as well as Hibernate properties inside this, and all the properties we are populating into these variables of the class. And then we have a session factory configuration, where local session factory configuration, where we are calling a data source. So first we'll get into the data source. So here we have a data source configuration. We are passing a driver class name, URL, host name, port number, database, and username, password. And then we have a method, private method, which gonna create populate the data in the database from this by after reading this SQL file. So this SQL file is there, where we have a create statement and insert statement for user and its role. And then we have a bunch of Hibernate properties like Hibernate dialect, DDM, show SQL, format SQL. We have a transaction manager configuration here, where we are injecting a session factory into that. So in the local session factory we are injecting a data source, as well as we are saying that this is the package where all the entity classes are there. And then we are setting a Hibernate properties which we have fetched from the database, and then we are aliasing this session factory, local session factory bean with session factory bean only. Then we have a web configuration, where we have a Spring Web Initializer, where we are saying that this class is extended from abstract annotations configuration dispatcher servlet initializer. So where we have mentioned that web MVC configuration, web security configuration, and persistent configurations are the configuration classes anything comes to the application with the slash, it gonna map to the dispatcher servlet initializer. Then we have a security configuration. So we have a security configuration initializer, which is extending from abstract security web application initializer. And then we have a web security configuration class, where we are injecting a user detail service. So this web security configuration extends from web security configure adapter, and we have annotated this class with the configuration as well as enable web security. We are injecting a user detail service into this, and then we are saying that we are configuring a user detail service as a authentication provider. Then we are mentioning that anything comes with a slash static slash star should not be intercepted as a part of Spring security filters. Then inside this method, inside the configure method, we are saying this static slash css static slash js login or logout should be given all permissions. Any URL with slash user should have at least user admin or super admin privileges. Any URL with admin should have admin or super admin privileges. Any URL with sadmin, super admin basically should have super admin privileges. Other than that, at least request should be authenticated. Here is a login form configuration. So for login form configuration, slash login will be the URL generated by Spring Security, and the default success URL will be slash welcome. In case of login failure, this is gonna be a URL, and in the login form, username and password will be the field from where Spring Security will pick up username and password for validation. And the slash logout will be the logout URL, and our logout success URL will be the login page. And on the logout URL, it's gonna invalidate session and clear the authentication. And then in case of any exception or any illegal access denied page gonna execute. So this is how the configuration looks like. So let's get into the controller. We have a login controller. So any request comes to the application, if it is not authenticated, slash login will be generated from the Spring Security. So this method gonna execute, and it gonna show us a login page. Once user login, if you want to log out, this is a link given in the login page. So based on this, view will be redirected to login, and in case of any illegal access denied will be executed. Then we have an application controller, where we have any with the context root or any URL with slash welcome will be redirected to the home page with this messages. And this is a URL for showing super admin page. Super admin URL is binded to the super admin view page, and then admin slash page URL is binded to the admin view, and then slash user slash page is binded to the user view, basically with the following messages. So we have a entity here, basically entity interface, which has get id set id methods, abstract entity which is having an implementation mapped to super class. So what will happen, whoever class extend this class, so the properties of this class will be for this class as well as the extend child class, only one table will be created. So it have id, primary key basically, and we have a certain callback methods here. There's a constructor and compare to method. Then we have a user entity which extend from abstract entity. So the ID from abstract entity and rest property from username, email, password gonna create. So this class is annotated with @entity, and table name will be user, and then it has username, user email, passwords, phone number, enable, first name, last name, created day, modified date, and collection of user role. So this class will represent many to many relationship. So one user can have many role, and many roles can be associated to many users. And there will be third table to resolve many to many complexity, which is named as user underscore role mapping, where the primary key from user as well as role will be mapped. Then we have a repository. So we have a repository interface. Then we have an entity repository interface where all the generic methods are there, so all the CRUD operation related methods based on the generic implementation. Then we have abstract repository, which is abstract repository implementing entity repository implemented with the help of generic. Here we are injecting a session factory, auto wiring a session factory into this class, and based on the session factory we are calling other methods. We are creating a criteria and all. We are loading, we are selecting based on ID, username and all. Then we have a user repository and role repository, basically which contains save user, get user by IDs, get user by name, delete user, update user, and get all the user. Same thing for role by name, role, save role, update role, drop role, get user role, or get user role based on the user object, and then get the roles. And we have an implementation like user repository MPL extending from abstract repository. So this is annotated with the @repository, so all the transactions are kept here basically, but ideally it should be on the service layer, but I have kept here. And so it internally call all the parent class methods, and same as a role repository, extend from abstract repository and bind it with the user role, implementing role repository, and then calling all the superclass methods here. Then we have a security where we have wrapped up the user as well as user detail into user detail IMPL, and then we have a user detail service IMPL. So this class is annotated with @component implementing user detail service. We are injecting a user manager. So user manager basically uses user repository as well as role repository to get the data from database. So here we have injected in this injected user manager, and we have override a method here. We are invoking a user manager dot get user, which in turn uses user repository to get user, and then it says it's call a get unique by example from abstract repository, which is based on the generic implementation. So once we get the user object, if we didn't get the user object and we try to get the user role, this will be null. So we'll get the null pointer exception, and then it will caught into this catch block, and null will be returned. So authentication will be false, the message which will show in the UI page itself, in the login page. If the user found with that username, we'll just get the username. We'll get the user, we'll get all the authorities, we'll create a array out of that, and then we'll wrap up all the information into user detail service and return the user detail service to the caller, basically authentication manager. Then we have a properties here where we have data source property, Hibernate related properties here. Then we have a SQL file which consists of all the create statement as well as insert statement, log4j.xml, where we have console appender, file rolling, file appender. Then we have a web app where we have static resource like CSS, Bootstrap CSS, JS, we have Bootstrap JS and jQuery JS. Then inside the web INF we have a web.xml where we have only description tag, and then inside the web INF we have a pages like login page. So in the login page we have imported a JSTL core tag library and page directive, and then we are importing a Bootstrap CSS, jQuery.js and Bootstrap JS and on load event of this form page we are saying that focus should be there in the input box, username input box. If any message is there, we are showing that message. And is a form for login where we if in case of any errors, this gonna show us in the red message will be shown in the red color. We have a label with the username and input box with the username. We have a label with password with input box with the password, and we have a submit button, and this is a input hidden input field where we are having a CSRF token. After successful login, user will be redirected to the generic application generic home page where we have imported a JSTL core tag library and Spring Security tag library by using taglib. And we have imported Bootstrap CSS, jQuery JS as well as Bootstrap JS. And inside this div tag we are checking whether the current user is logged in means if it is not equal to null, we are showing a logout button with the welcome message for him. And inside this container inside this div we are showing some messages, and inside this tab we are using a Spring Security tags just to show role base. So based on the role we're gonna show the links to the user. If super admin logs in to access this URL, this role is required. To access this URL, either of this role is required, and to access this URL, either of these three roles are required. So what it does, if user doesn't have this role, it's gonna hide this tag. Super admin can see this, admin can see this as well as this, and user can see only his user link to his home page. Then we have super admin home page where we have JSTL core tag library is imported, JS, Bootstrap JS, jQuery JS, and CSS is imported. This is a code for checking whether the user is logged in by using security context and all. So if he is logged in, then logout will be shown, and this is a link to go back to the application generic home page, and here are some messages. So same sort of things we have done in admin page as well as the user page. Here's the access denied page where we have just said insufficient privileges if somebody tried to access illegally in the application by changing URL and all. So this is how the application looks like. So let's fire up the application and see how it looks. So I'm gonna build the application first. So here you can see all the drop table and all, then map queries are executed, then registration of all the data types for HIbernate as well as MySQL, then maps and all these queries are executed internally. So if you debug the logs, you can see a lot of information out of that. Then all the URLs with the controllers are validated, and whatever the URLs are secured by student Spring Security, that is also evaluated. So here's the application started on port number 8080. So let's hit the port user localhost, port number 8080. So here first I'll try with wrong username password. Say invalid credential provided. So now I'll log into as a administrator, super admin basically. Adarsh is a password. So I logged in as a super admin, so I can see super admin homepage link, admin homepage link, and user admin. So this is a application generic homepage. So once I say, here you can see the welcome message as well as logout button. Once I get into that super admin homepage, I can see message as well as logout and link to go back to the generic homepage. So now I am coming into application admin homepage, and then I'll go into the user specific homepage here, and I'll log out, and now I'll log in as a admin basically. Admin is a username password. You can see only two links like admin home and user home, so I'll get into admin home here, come back to generic homepage, then getting into user homepage, then come back to the generic homepage and then log out. So now I'll log as a normal user. So I can see only one link to go to the homepage of this user. So I'm into the homepage of user. I can go back and then I can log out. So this is how the application, if I tries to log into the welcome, so it's gonna redirect it to homepage, login homepage basically. And if I just try to say then also it will not allow me to go inside the application. So I'm gonna store this store this application to my GitHub repository, which is AdarshKumar83/spring_security. So my all previous applications are already there, and this application gonna store in the same location. So I hope this will help you to understand how Spring security we can configure with the Hibernate as well as Spring MVC for securing web application completely without XML configuration. So all the configuration I try to explain you, I try to touch each and every part of the application. So here's a bunch of logs. So if we get into the log here, we can see that this is all that log4j framework initialization things. Then here initializing a Spring web application context. Then here we can see other informations also. So I'm just trying to give you some. This is a part of component scan where it scan the packages and all .class file, and it gonna. So see here, it's adding a property, data source, Hibernate properties and all. And then after that it's importing other classes and all. Then if you see web configurations and all, that is initialized. Then here what is I'm gonna show you some Hibernate related logs. There are so many logs. So See here, role repository and all these things are added. See here, driver classes and all contributions are registered. Then here you can see searching for driver data source and from property file and all, reading all the keys. See here, data source URL and all, reading the things, and extra parameter data source and all. Data source password and everything. Hibernate highlighted test. So all these are like pre-initialization activities. So here see show Hibernate show SQL not found, Hibernate.show SQL. Lot of things are there, like now it is executing the script ESpark. So if table exists, it's just start deleting and then all deleting and then start creating, then inserting, and then it's mapping the bean properties and lot of other stuffs also, like it's registering all the data type with Hibernate to SQL database for conversions. Then here you can see the binding columns and all, everything it does. So here you can see that all the things properties are. So here if you just analyze the log, you can see lot of informations. See here insert scripts are executed and all. So I hope this will help you to understand how we can create a integrated application of Spring Security, Spring MVC and Hibernate without XML using Maven. So please do comment on this and let me know if there is something which is left out in the explanation, so I can add it going forward. Till then, thank you, take care, bye.